You're listening to an African Elements top news story for June 19, 2025. Please visit our website at africanelements.org for more daily news. Judge rules Trump NIH grant cuts illegal citing discrimination by Darius Spearman. In a powerful ruling, a federal judge declared that the Trump administration's cancellation of hundreds of National Institutes of Health (NIH) research grants was illegal and void. U.S. District Judge William Young in Massachusetts, a judge with 4 decades of experience, stated that the process was arbitrary and capricious. He also raised serious questions about racial discrimination, expressing profound anger and frustration at the administration's actions. Judge Young's decision came during a trial concerning 2 cases against the Trump administration regarding these funding cuts. He emphasized that the administration did not follow long-held government rules and standards when it abruptly canceled grants. These grants were deemed to focus on gender identity or diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI). The judge found the administration's actions to be palpably clear discrimination against research grants focused on DEI, gender identity, and other topics. He declared, "I've sat on this bench now for 40 years. I've never seen government racial discrimination like this. The term DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, is central to this dispute. In the context of the NIH grant cancellations, DEI refers to research initiatives and efforts aimed at addressing health inequities and supporting diverse populations. The canceled grants included funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts and research into health inequities. The Trump administration perceived these initiatives as supporting unlawful discrimination or being often unscientific. The judge strongly suggested that the cuts were discriminatory, particularly against racial minorities, women, and LGBTQ+ individuals. He found no evidence to support the administration's claims that DEI initiatives supported unlawful discrimination. Attorneys representing researchers argued that the funding cuts were arbitrary and specifically targeted studies affecting racial minorities, women, and LGBTQ+ people. Judge Young challenged the Justice Department's claim that DEI-related studies are often used to support unlawful discrimination, stating, "Point me just anywhere in this record where it's pointed out that any particular grant or group of grants is being used to support unlawful discrimination on the basis of race." From what I can see, it's the reverse. He accused the government of discriminating against minorities and LGBT people by terminating NIH grants for research on diversity-related topics. The Trump administration's Justice Department argued that the cuts were a reflection of new policy priorities. They claimed these cuts would improve research by eliminating studies deemed unscientific or lacking return on investment. Justice Department Attorney Thomas Ports stated that some grants had been renewed, while others were not scientifically valuable. However, he did not explain how the Trump administration defined DEI or the harms they claimed DEI-related research caused. A Justice Department lawyer contended that research programs based on gender identity are often unscientific, have little identifiable return on investment, and do nothing to enhance the health of many Americans. They argued that eliminating them would be an improvement. However, the judge found that the administration's claims of prioritizing scientific rigor and gold standard science were not supported by clear criteria or examples during the trial. He noted that the government could not provide any evidence to support their assertions that the terminated grants were often unscientific. This lack of justification led the judge to deem the terminations arbitrary and capricious. When Judge Young described the administration's actions as arbitrary and capricious, he was using a specific legal standard. In this context, it means that the administration's decision to terminate the NIH grants lacked a rational basis. The decisions were not supported by evidence and were made without proper consideration of relevant factors. The judge found that the government could not provide any examples or evidence to back up their claims that the grants were often unscientific or supported unlawful discrimination. This ruling highlights that government actions must be reasoned and evidence-based. The judge's finding of arbitrary and capricious behavior means the administration failed to meet these basic requirements. It also implies a violation of anti-discrimination laws, as the cuts disproportionately affected research beneficial to minority and LGBTQ+ communities without proper justification. The judge's strong language reflected his view that the cuts were not about scientific merit, but about targeting specific groups and topics. The judge ordered the NIH to disperse funding for 367 grants that were affected by new Trump administration policies. While the specific names of all canceled grants are not listed, the articles provide examples of the types of research affected. These included grants related to diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, as well as research into health inequities. For instance, one plaintiff had 6 grants terminated for research focusing on sexual violence in minority communities. Another cut grant had funded a study seeking to develop interventions to reduce drug use and promote mental and physical health in Black men. These examples show that the cancellations affected research crucial to minority communities and public health. The judge stated that more than $1 billion in research grants were arbitrarily canceled. The American Public Health Association, APHA, characterized the cuts as an effort to stamp out NIH-funded research that addresses topics and populations that they disfavor. This underscores the perceived negative impact on these communities, particularly those in the African American and diaspora populations who rely on such research to address long-standing health disparities. The judge's ruling to reinstate these grants suggests a recognition of their importance to these communities and public health outcomes. The legal basis for challenging and restoring the grants stems from the judge's finding that the NIH violated federal law by arbitrarily canceling the grants. The judge ruled that the administration's actions were arbitrary and capricious, and thus illegal. This suggests a violation of administrative law principles, which require government actions to be reasoned and evidence-based. The judge also accused the government of discriminating against minorities and LGBT people, implying potential violations of anti-discrimination laws. While the articles do not provide a detailed legal definition of discrimination, they indicate that the judge found the administration's actions discriminatory because the grant terminations targeted research related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. These cuts specifically impacted minority and LGBTQ+ communities, without any legitimate, evidence-based justification. The judge's accusation of discrimination implies that the cuts were motivated by bias against these groups and their related research, rather than by scientific merit or fiscal responsibility. The lack of evidence to support the administration's claims of unlawful discrimination in the grants themselves further strengthens the judge's finding of discrimination by the administration. The ruling has significant implications for NIH funding policies. It mandates the reinstatement of the terminated grants and reinforces the legal standard against arbitrary and discriminatory grant cancellations. While the immediate future involves the government making funds available, the long-term implications depend on whether the administration appeals the decision and how it chooses to respond. The ruling also suggests that future administrations will face legal challenges if they attempt to cut grants without clear, evidence-based justifications, especially concerning diversity and equity initiatives. The articles indicate that the administration's response to the ruling, including a potential appeal, remains an open question. Historically, the NIH has terminated grants even after federal judges blocked such cuts, and the administration has disregarded other rulings. This suggests that while the judge has ordered the immediate availability of funds, the actual reinstatement of grants could face further delays or legal battles depending on the administration's next steps. The White House accused Judge Young of showing bias, with spokesperson Kush Desai stating, "It is appalling that a federal judge would use court proceedings to express his political views and preferences." This response indicates a potential for continued resistance to the ruling. Judge Young's ruling is a significant moment for scientific research and for communities that rely on it. His strong words against what he perceived as blatant discrimination highlight the importance of protecting research that addresses health inequities and supports diverse populations. 18. The judge's decision to restore these grants is a victory for those who advocate for evidence-based policy and for the rights of minority and LGBTQ+ individuals. It sends a clear message that government actions must be fair, transparent, and free from discriminatory intent. The fight for equitable research funding continues, and this ruling serves as a powerful reminder of the judiciary's role in upholding justice. It also underscores the need for constant vigilance against policies that could harm vulnerable communities. For African American and diaspora communities who often bear a disproportionate burden of health disparities, the reinstatement of these grants is a crucial step toward ensuring that their health needs are adequately researched and addressed. The judge's ruling is a testament to the idea that science should serve all people, without prejudice or political interference. Copyright African Elements.